Osama Bin Laden's hideout in Abbottabad, Pakistan, was demolished less than a year after US Navy SEALs tracked him down and killed him there. But some of the secrets it contained are still being revealed. Ahead of their release on Wednesday, the CIA gave AFP exclusive access to translations of around 100 documents it says were found in Bin Laden's compound. Pentagon correspondent Dan DeLuce says they shed light on Bin Laden's strategy.
You see clearly his preoccupation with staging a major attack on the United States and on the West, and constantly appealing against getting distracted with conflicts elsewhere in the Middle East. He keeps coming back to the idea of staging a major attack, even larger than the September 11th attacks.
In the months before Bin Laden died, the Arab uprisings had just begun in Tunisia. He appears to have seen this as both an opportunity and a threat.
What's coming through is, hey, we've got to stay relevant, we have to be pertinent, we have to jump on this, we have to exploit this. And he's sitting there in this compound in Pakistan, very far away from events.
The translated documents also concern the day-to-day running of al-Qaeda, such as this application form for potential new recruits. Along with biographical details, applicants are asked about their religious knowledge and if they know people who specialize in chemistry, useful for explosives, or communications. One of the questions is simply, do you wish to execute a suicide operation, with space left for who to contact in case you become a martyr? It's one of a number of documents that show an effort to professionalize al-Qaeda.
It's kind of comical. He talks about creating a development center, and he almost is employing corporate human resources speak in this focus on a new cadre of leaders who can carry the organization forward.
Many of the documents are personal correspondence of the man who orchestrated the 9/11 attacks on the US. One of his sons, Hamza, whose whereabouts are still unknown, wrote a letter pleading to be allowed to come to Pakistan to help his father. Another son asks why his father seems to be angry with him. The declassification comes in the wake of an article by veteran reporter Seymour Hersh claiming that Bin Laden was no longer running al-Qaeda when he was killed. US officials say this release of documents was long planned and not intended as a riposte to Hersh's article.
The Golden Chain is a list of names that was seized in March of 2002 in a raid by Bosnian police of the premises of the Benevolence International Foundation in Sarajevo. The Golden Chain is a list of sponsors of al-Qaeda. The list included 25 names, 20 of them very wealthy Saudis and Gulf state financial sponsors that included bankers, businessmen, and former ministers. According to a Washington Institute article dated September 17, 2021, part of the list includes a computer file titled Tariq Osama, or Osama History, but the appellation Golden Chain itself is due to the al-Qaeda defector Jamal al-Fadl, who vouched for its authenticity. The computer file contained photographs of the birth and early days of al-Qaeda, as well as letters and documents, some in Bin Laden's handwriting. In the seized material, records were found of both the plans for al-Qaeda's activities and its organizational structure and operational foundations. These are believed to have been prepared by Bin Laden and his mentor, Sheikh Abdullah Azzam. In an article by Matthew Levitt, dated March 19, 2004, entitled Charitable Organizations and Terrorist Financing, a War on Status Check, Levitt details, quote, in December, U.S. authorities raided the Chicago offices of another Saudi-based charity, the Benevolence International Foundation. The foundation's videos and literature glorify martyrdom, and according to the charity's newsletter, 7 of its officers were killed in battle last year in Chechnya and Bosnia. In March of 2002, Bosnian officials investigating foreign humanitarian organizations reported funds were missing from the Bosnian office of the Benevolence International. Also in March, Bosnian police raided the offices of an Islamic charity called Bosnian Ideal Future, which is the local name under which Benevolence International operated in Bosnia. Officials seized weapons, plans for making bombs, booby traps, and false passports. A day later, the U.S. Embassy in Bosnia was shut down for 4 days after Bosnian officials informed the embassy of a possible threat. According to a Bosnian official, al-Qaeda terrorists reportedly met in Sofia, Bulgaria, where they decided that in Sarajevo, something will happen to Americans similar to New York last September. 2 days before the embassy reopened, Bosnian police arrested Munir Zaragic, the head of a local benevolence office and a former officer in the Bosnian Muslim secret police, end quote. They also found a list of 20 Arab plutocrats, the Golden Chain, who were suspected of financing international terrorism, including al-Qaeda. The custody of the secret and confidential material was entrusted to Bin Laden's confidant, Enaam Arnaout, who was convinced that the documents were in the safest and most secure place in the Sarajevo office of the Benevolence International Foundation. During a search of the Benevolence International Foundation's offices in Sarajevo, the relevant law enforcement agencies found clear evidence of a connection between the head of the office, Enaam Arnaout, and Osama Bin Laden, and of militant subordination between the two, and charges were brought against Arnaout. Most accounts are vague on what year the Golden Chain document was written. Some say 1988, but counterterrorism advisor Richard Clark says it dates from 1989. The Golden Chain was presented by the U.S. government in the criminal case United States versus Arnaout, filed on January 29, 2003, and in other legal filings. The American government has never publicly released the full document, so the full list of names is a matter of conjecture and speculation. In 2003, the Wall Street Journal reported that it included billionaire bankers Salah Kamel and Khalid bin Mahfouz. Mahfouz was a Saudi Arabian billionaire, banker, and businessman, and former chairman of the National Commercial Bank. Also friends to Osama bin Laden, as well as the Arad family, another banking family, and Mr. bin Laden's own brothers. Minutes of the Sarajevo meeting on August 11, 1988 confirmed that bin Laden had begun his jihadist movement at this time. Bin Laden decided to recruit members and raise funds from Saudi Arabia. To carry out his jihadist war, he had to enlist the wealthy plutocrats of the Gulf, the Golden Chain, to fund al-Qaeda. The Golden Chain document was a copy of a handwritten 1988 draft listing the wealthy financiers of the Mujahideen operations in Afghanistan, known within al-Qaeda as the Golden Chain. At the top of the document, translated from Arabic by the United States Department of Justice, was a quote from the Quran, quote, "and spend in the cause of God," end quote. Many of the Mujahideen were getting funding from the Maktab al-Khidamat, the Bin Laden or the Afghan Services Bureau, headed by Abdullah Azzam and Abdullah Anas, later taken over by Osama Bin Laden and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, before it closed down for lack of funding. Much of the CIA's funding went through the Pakistan ISI to fund the Mujahideen throughout the 1980s in Operation Cyclone. The trickle-down effect may have found its way to the Maktab al-Khidamat in Pakistan and in Brooklyn, New York, where they had an office at the Al-Khifa Refugee Center. Weapons that were given by the CIA went through Pakistan ISI, and they too had a trickle-down effect, which probably went to much of the Mujahideen through the Afghans and Arabs that were fighting the Soviets in Afghanistan. Who knows how much money went through the CIA to the ISI and to the Mujahideen, which in the end was used against the United States.